What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video party. I'm so excited to upload this one for you guys because for this video we'll be taking a look at a movie that I have been dying to watch, and that would be The Last Duel. So when I was thinking of what kind of videos I should release in July, I sort of realized that throughout these past few months, or for pretty much most of 2022, I've only been talking about anime, which is funny because when I first started this channel on YouTube, it mostly only talked about movie reviews. So I figured let's take a small break from anime and just talk about movies. Coincidentally, most of the movies I'm going to be talking about for this month all have one thing in common. They were all directed by Ridley Scott. So for this video, we'll be taking a look at The Last Duel, which was his most recent film that came out almost a year ago. Also, this was one of those movies that I was really excited about because as much as I love sci-fi, anime, and anything pop culture right now, it's always nice to see a really good period drama. And when I saw the trailers for this film, it really piqued my interest because as a kid, I always loved stories that were set in the Middle Ages that always involved knights, castles, and princesses. So when I heard this movie was going to be set in medieval France and we were going to watch two knights just go at each other in a duel to the death, I was very excited because this was pretty much the realistic version of medieval times. But anyway, one of the other things that also caught my attention was that this movie was actually based on a true story where we have Matt Damon, Sir Jean de Carew versus Adam Driver, Jacques Delacroix in a duel to the death, which was actually the last duel that was ever fought in France. The reason why these two men are fighting is because Jacques Delacroix has been accused of raping Sir Jean's wife, Marguerite de Carew. And right at the beginning of the film, the movie shows us each of these individuals ready themselves for what is about to come as we see both of these men strap on the armor while Marguerite is standing by to see who is going to walk away from this duel. Because based on what we saw in the trailers, her fate lies with whoever wins this duel. More on that later. And then this movie has its Tarantino moment as it cuts from the very start of the duel before taking us back several months into the past to show the audience how the hell did it all come down to this. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting is that the story is broken up into three distinguishable parts. And all three acts of the film, Ridley Scott decided to take this opportunity in order to show audience each perspective of all three characters who are involved in this final duel. In the first act of the film, we see Sir Jean's point of view, who is a soldier who just loves to fight. Even in his old age, he still loves to ride into battle alongside with his friend Jacques. But as we move further into his side of the story, we start to see how even though Sir Jean has done more for France, Jacques is being treated far more better than him, even though he's been nothing but a good friend and mentor to him. And this sort of makes you feel sad for Sir Jean, as it shows you that sometimes hard work and dedication just isn't enough. Sometimes it takes to have good connections in order to get what you want. And boy, does Jacques have very powerful connections. Throughout the first act of the film, we see how Sir Jean portrays Jacques as a backstabbing friend who's pretty much taking away everything that Sir Jean has always wanted in life. And when he learns that Jacques raped his wife, that is what makes him snap. Moving on to the second act of the film, which is Jacques' side of the story, this is where I got very excited. Because right at the beginning of Jacques' chapter, we are immediately taken back to the very beginning of Sir Jean's story, but being told from Jacques' point of view. And that's what got me very excited, because in most movies, we only see one side of the story throughout the entire film before learning out the entire truth and possibly the third act. Here, Ridley Scott makes sure that you get all three sides of the story so that you can become fully invested into these three characters so that when we move on to the big fight, the stakes have never been higher. But anyway, as we take a look at Jacques' side of the story, we begin to see how he's not the backstabbing friend that Sir Jean makes him out to be. Rather than he's simply just a guy trying to make his way in the world. While he certainly has friends in high places who can help him, because as we see him gain more land, more respect, more entitlement, we start to see that this is starting to affect his relationship with Sir Jean, who can only be seen as a jealous friend in Jacques' eyes. But when we see the moment between him and Marguerite, from Jacques' perspective, there was no rape in this story. Instead, this was a moment between two lovers where the woman decided to cheat on her husband. Which then leads us to Marguerite's side of the story, and for me, I kind of consider this to be the truth of the story because throughout her side of the story, she shows the audience how she was a devoted wife to a husband who favored his own pride and honor over her. And when you see the movie from her point of view, you can understand her frustration when she has to deal with her husband's jealous nature and Jacques' overstretched boundaries. And just like in Jacques' story, we see the moment between him and Marguerite, but being told from Marguerite's perspective. And in her eyes, this was no lover's quarrel. This was rape, and she describes it in detail. That's one thing I should probably warn you about, that there are a lot of sex scenes, and this rape scene is repeated a couple times. Granted, the rape scene needs to be in the film as it serves as the focal point in the entire story between these three characters. But let's be honest, there were some sex scenes that could have been cut out. But anyway, once all three stories have been told, it is now up to the audience to decide who is telling the truth. And what better way to sell this than with a duel to the death, where if Sir Jean wins, he and his wife will be absolved from any accusations made against them. But if Jacques wins, not only will Sir Jean be dead, but Marguerite will be burned at the stake for committing adultery. So the stakes have never been high enough, and what makes this fight even more brutal to watch is knowing that this actually happened in history. And let me tell you, I've never sweated so much while watching a movie before this, because as I was watching these two men go at each other on horseback, then on foot, my heart was racing to see who was going to come out on top. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie, and even though I had a good time watching it, that doesn't mean that it's perfect. Aside from the unnecessary sex scenes, while I enjoyed watching the story being told from three perspectives, that does make the pacing a bit repetitive as you're watching the same scenes over and over. And knowing that the big fight takes place at the very end of the film, this movie is pretty much a slow burn. So if you decide to watch this film, be aware that there are a lot of sex scenes, a lot of scenes are repeated and reused, and it takes a while for things to get exciting. But if you want to watch something different from your standard typical superhero movie, then I highly recommend you watch this film. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review for The Last Duel. If you like what you saw, click the subscribe button so you can always updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.